Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome to our Thursday chat. Just me at the moment. We are expecting Andy to come in a little bit later. He's just on his way back. He's just been away for a few days down in his beloved little place where he gets to relax and enjoy his time with Jane. And he is on his way back. He's only a few minutes away, but I thought I'd come on and just start saying hello because I know that we try and keep it to around the 4 o'clock timeline. And life always gets in the way a little bit. We're the same as everybody else, particularly when you run a busy company as well. So I hope you're all getting through. I hope you can see this. I hope you can hear this. If you are watching, please just come in and say hello. It's always nice to have that confirmation to know that we are going live and that people are here. But one of the things I thought I would do today is just have an open chat about false guides and the effects that they have on the recipient and the effects that they can also have on friends, family, business, and the home. So it is one of the things that we cover quite seriously in the academy when we do the training with our practitioners. It's one of those things that we experience to our recipients of the work, the clients of our work, the people that book our clearings. False guides do come up, not regularly, but they're certainly not rare. So they do come up once in a while. And it's important to know who they are, how they are, what they're doing, and how, obviously, for a practitioner of ours, how to clear them. But I thought I'd go through the effects of the false guides so that we can have that open conversation and you guys can come in, ask questions, and see how we can help you, see how we can chat. Because the universe is a wonderful place. The universe is far more complex than certainly I think anybody else could ever imagine. But the universe always works in balance. And that means that where there is light, there is dark. Where there is good, there is also not so good. Energy is energy. Energy has a life. Energy has a frequency of life. And it's reported that you can't kill energy, but you can certainly change it. You can certainly manipulate energy. You can make negative energy into positive. You can, if you wanted to, create positive energy into negative. But it's not scaremongering. It's not fearmongering in any way. We just talk about the experience in our work. Very often, one of the things I say to people in training is that it doesn't matter whether you believe it or not. It's whether the recipient believes it. And if the recipient believes it, and we can help the recipient, and it helps the recipient deal with their mental health, deal with their physical health, and then it does get to a stage where the feedback that constantly comes through to you from the recipients of the clearings is if you didn't believe it before, you begin to believe it. Because there's people out there that suffer, and their stories are all similar. Their stories are all the same. So there's got to be something there, in my view. There's got to be something there. If people are feeling the same things, feeling the same symptoms, having the same problems, and the stories are linked, the stories are very similar, then that to me means there's something out there. And whether we believe it or not, might be a bit of reality. Might be a bit of reality that we don't want to believe. But being an open mind and being open to the experiences that our clients have, for the amount of thousands of clearings that I've done over the years with White Hawk and the Spirit team, and also with some really, really good facilitators, your mind changes. Your mind changes to how this universe affects people in different ways. It really, really does. And I can see the hellos coming in, and thank you very much. We've got Natasha, Nature Mystic Life, Natasha, part of the Academy, Michelle, Laurie, Marla, Sharon, Laura, lots of people, Kamara, Agatha. Thank you for saying hello, and hello back to all of you as well. And I hope you enjoy this chat. And like I say, if you do have any questions about this, like Andy, we're open to any question that comes in. We'll always be honest and transparent. And if we don't know the answer, we'll say so. We're not going to make it up just to make ourselves try and look good. We will come back with more information. And I've just seen that John's come in. John, mate, I hope you're very, very well. And regards to you and your lovely wife, Carolyn, as well. We've got Elaine in the house. So we've got some practitioners coming as well. So they may comment, they may bring their experiences in by text and by comments as well. But this chat is kind of centered around the guides, and particularly the false guides. This is where we're going to go with this chat. So if we're going to start that, it's important to understand really what a guide is. And a guide, the general definition, and I know that there's people out there that may define it slightly different to me. That's absolutely fine. Doesn't mean they're right. Doesn't mean I'm right. Doesn't mean they're wrong. Doesn't mean I'm wrong. People have their own understanding, their own definition. This is my understanding, and my understanding comes from years and years and years of working with guides, and also working to clear negative false guides as well. So this is how I come into play. So spirit guides, really what they are is they're an entity, they're an energy, usually of a higher dimension, sometimes of a higher intelligence. Sometimes they've walked the earth plane, sometimes they haven't. Sometimes they're angelic. Sometimes people would say they're more ET. But they are an intelligence source that connects to the individual by way of helping them to guide them through their life's path. That's generally the definition for what a guide is. There's different roles. Different guides have different specialities, just like people. Usually guides come with some kind of personality. Not always. Some can be very flat. But particularly ones that have walked the earth plane generally bring that personality through. Or if they have that life intelligence from another planet, another dimension, they bring that personality and that masterism through as well. And the energy of just all knowing, all being. They can carry absolutely incredible energy when they come through and work through a medium. So the guides, usually somebody would have a general guide, a guide that is always on the path, is always walking side by side. Doesn't matter what it is you're doing, that guide would be working with you. I guess in my sense, White Hawk would be my master guide. He is my guide that I generally communicate with, and he is the one that I generally walk my path with. But also I'm aware that around White Hawk there is a whole host of guides and a whole team of guides, and they have their specialist subjects. Professionally, I work in psychic surgery, so I have 2 guides that come in and work, if you like, on the surgeon's table. White Hawk doesn't do psychic surgery in that sense. He does the energy clearing. He does the energy healing. He makes sure that the recipient of the work is ready and prepared with their energy for the technical guides to come in and do their psychic surgery, and then White Hawk will close the session down. But there's also other guides. I have a gatekeeper guide who is actually White Hawk's brother. When I work in clearings and doing psychic surgery and stuff, when it can get a little bit heavy, when it can get difficult, I have a gatekeeper guide that comes in and protects me and also clears away any energy that shouldn't be there that White Hawk can't clear. So White Hawk is very gentle. White Hawk will go in and try and negotiate, and usually that works. When negotiation breaks down, and if you like, it's time for force, that's when his brother comes in, who's Red Feather. Red Feather doesn't channel. Red Feather doesn't speak. Red Feather has a job to do. He does it, and he gets out again. In many ways, he's a bit of a bugger compared to White Hawk, but that's his role, purely the warrior spirit. And you guys, all of you guys, have a team of guides around you as well, all specializing in different things. Sometimes as we go through our paths, sometimes we hit that corner, we have a bit of a bump, we have a hurdle, and sometimes specific guides step forward at that time just to try and help out, to de-stress, to look after us mentally, physically, spiritually, and also to help us guide our way through whatever that troubled part of the pond is, if you know what I mean. If you got rippled waters, how are you going to get through those ripples? Are the ripples going to turn into waves? When will you start seeing the smoothness of the water again? And this is what those guides are there for. Very often, White Hawk tells me that when you go through these periods of life, this is not a negative time, this is a positive time. Because what it's actually confirming is that you are ready for the next step, you're ready for the next elevation on your path. And the way that, just as the same as us, if you go through work, if you want a career, you have to sit tests, you have to prove that you're knowledgeable about what you've just been learning. So therefore you can move forward. Exactly the same with life tests. Life tests come up and they can bite you on the bum. They can give you a slap round the face. You can take that as negativity and that it's trying to hold you back. Or as White Hawk says to me, it's not. They're asking you to provide evidence that you're strong enough to step forward. That when something does come up and stand in your way, you're not just going to back down. There's always a way around. There's always a way through, whether it be over, under, around, whether the path means you have to go off and then come back again. Doesn't matter. But do you have that resilience? Do you have that strength of character to stand up through those hurdles and say, it doesn't matter, forwards, that's where we're going. So these little kinks in our life's journey are not always there to hold us back, push us back into the corner and push us back into the shadows. Sometimes they're a test acknowledging what we've just done in our life over the last year, 2 years, 5 years, and that we're now ready to progress. And we have the strength of character to stand up and wade through the muck so that we can see those clear waters again. So the universe works in many ways. And we're going to bring this back to the false guides, the way that they work. And so, like I say, it's important to know that you have guides around you. It's important to know, well, everybody has guides, I believe. Mediums learn how to connect to guides. They learn how to be sensitive. Each guide has their own different handshake, what we call it. When they come into your energy, we know that there's a different feeling in that energy compared to the guide that was with us before, and may have a different way of introducing themselves. We call it the energetic handshake. Each person has a handshake, and every now and again, when you shake someone's hand enough times, you know that handshake without even having to open the eyes and see who's there. You know, you feel, and it's exactly the same when the guides come in. False guides. There are energies out there, there are entities out there, and they have a purpose. They have a purpose to come in. They have a purpose to disrupt, to take control, and to create havoc. And when they create havoc, they create stress. When they create stress, they create adrenaline. And it's the adrenaline that is the energy that they're looking for. Now, if someone's happy just having a chilled walk out in a park, then there's no adrenaline. When the force guide comes in and creates adrenaline, it's usually through fear, because as we understand, fear is one of the greatest manifestations of adrenaline within the body. And it's that energy that the false guide is after. So false guides usually come in on a very welcoming, very friendly, very happy vibration, false vibration. They capture the attention of the individual, the recipient, and they work ways out of how to gain their trust, because what they don't do, false guides don't come in and say, look how big my teeth are, look how big my horns are, look at my spiky tail, and I'm going to make your life hell. By the way, will you work with me? That's not how they work. They come in under a false guise. They come in under a false energy. They come in promising false things. False guides give you information. False guides give you healing. False guides usually are high ranking and dark force entities, dark energies. They're high ranking, they're knowledgeable, they know what they're doing. They've sort of climbed the career path, if you like, in negativity. And if you don't know what you're doing, very easily you can be succumbed by them, because they will speak to you in a way that you believe can be true. And if you're not experienced, it's very, very hard to self-analyze to see whether you have a false guide or not. And that's usually where a third party comes in, someone that knows exactly what they're doing. And this is how they sort of come into your life, really, and take over. And we've seen it. Unfortunately, in the academy, where we had a couple of people, I guess they didn't make too many notes on the training when it came to false guides, or if they did, they certainly didn't learn from it, and they had to have their own learning experience. And of course, through the academy, we try and help them as much as we possibly can. But if they choose to continue, there's not a lot we can do, because there's a contract, there's a conscious contract between that person and the false guides, because there's an acceptance. And when we work in clearings, some of the entities that we clear can be very quick, can be very easily done. Others take a little bit longer, and others are downright buggers and they don't want to go. And they'll give you whatever it is they can give you to try and get you to back off. This is normally where Red Feather comes back in, and then takes over as the gatekeeper. But this is what those guides do. They come into your energy, they give you falsehood, they give you false hope, they give you false knowledge, or real knowledge in some cases, just to get your trust. And they're just getting your trust. As soon as they get your trust, they have your agreement to be in your space. As soon as they have your agreement to be in your space, you have a verbal contract. When you have that verbal contract with a false guide, they can then become very, very difficult to clear. Even for an experienced practitioner, they can be difficult to clear, because the conscious of the individual has allowed and accepted and agreed the communication and the connection. So this is why sometimes the false guide side of what we do can be the heavier, trickier ways of which we clear an individual and clear a recipient. So the best ways, honestly, to prevent yourself from being the target of a false guide is, if you don't know what you're doing, don't do it. Particularly when it comes into spiritual practices. If you like, if we talk about the Ouija board is nothing but a communication board that works very well and very safely with an experienced medium that knows what they're doing. And it is nothing more than a communication board. The problem with the Ouija board is that Hollywood have got hold of it and they've made it into a plaything. And this plaything is the opposite of a plaything. It's not a plaything in any way, shape, or form. But there's lots of people that have experimented with the Ouija board. They've experimented with it. They've had parties with it. They've had fun with it. They've taken the mickey out of it. And they have no understanding of the portal that is about to be opened in their house or on them, because they don't understand what they're doing and they're delving into depths where they can't swim. So the biggest thing for me in spirituality is that if you are learning, take your time, because I can teach you right now, anybody here watching, I can teach you right now how to pull a guide in and how to communicate with that guide. And we can do that within 20 minutes to 30 minutes comfortably. But that doesn't make you a medium. It takes years to be a working medium. It takes years to understand the different energies that you work with, how and why. Do you want somebody that's just done 5 minutes and they're now sort of saying they're mediums and things like that? Or do you want someone that's done the apprenticeship? Someone that stayed under radar, studying, learning, dedicated to the cause. And then when they're ready and when their guides are ready, they then come out, because both sets of people are out there. And I know plenty of people that don't know what they're doing, that have come into an environment where they have an audience where what they say is believed to be true, and very regularly it's not. And that's because they haven't done their apprenticeship, they haven't learned. So like I'm saying to you, it's really easy to learn how to communicate to your guides and how to pull them into your area and work with them. The problem is understanding, and the problem is being able to define that energy and being able to work with that energy in a way that's positive, and also being confident enough and having people around you that can confirm that it is a positive energy that you're working with and that you're communicating with. Because the false guide side, they're very deceptive, and they're negative by build, by manufacture. So, if there was a situation fairly recently where someone was asking me about attending a circle with somebody that was openly channeling a negative energy, but this negative energy was saying that they were positive. And White Hawk's response was, if a wolf covered himself in feathers, you wouldn't let him in your chicken coop. And it's kind of the perfect response, is that these energies don't change. They are built by definition to be who they are. I'm built to be who I am. You're built to be who you are. Yes, life experience can change personality. Yes, the friendship group you have around you can help to change the way that you think, the way that your mind works. But you're still you. Your DNA is still you. It doesn't matter what you do, you're still you. Your integrity will always expose you. It doesn't matter what you say, it doesn't matter what you do, your integrity will be transparent, and your integrity will always come out in the end and show you for who you actually are. And that is exactly the same for false guides. They will come in under the guise. They will come in trying to bring you in. Once they get your agreement, once they get your contract to be in there, they can lay dormant. I think the longest one that I've worked against, I was going to say work with, but perhaps that's not the right phrase. The longest dormant false guide that I've worked with was about 10 years. It lay dormant, and it was just sitting there ready to come out whenever it wants, whenever it's ready. So they're in control. That's the thing. They're in control. You've let them in and you've given them agreement to attach and come in. Usually, And I'm going to bring Natasha into this. Natasha is commenting under Nature Mystic Life, and Natasha has a wonderful phrase when we talk about psychic protection within the SRA, within the practitioner bands that we have and the teachings. And I've completely grabbed her phrase, and that's don't be the weakest link. Don't be a weak link. If you are going to delve into the spiritual world, know what you're doing, know your ability, and know what you can't do. And just be honest. Don't pretend to be something you're not, because there are ways of learning. And learning normally comes with time. Learning normally comes with patience. But it's usually the ones with ego that don't learn and don't have the patience. And the ego allows the link in the chain to be weak. And that will give access through the ego into the etheric fields of the individual. I mean, the psychological effects, once a false guide starts coming through, the regularity of psychological effects is the confused state, the feeling of complete confusion, doubt, fear, increased self-doubt, increased doubt about others, second guessing decisions that just wouldn't happen, false beliefs, and an unhealthy attachment to the energy that is the false guide, beginning to think that you can't do anything without it, which then means that your personality is beginning to deflate. Your personality is diminishing. You're dropping your own personality and taking on more of them, because you're relying on that energy more. You're relying on them to come through and help your decisions. And these are the things that completely mess people up mentally. False promises that come through from the guide. Remembering how they start on a very positive level. They start on a way that you think, oh yeah, you're fantastic, I'm going to work with you. And then when they're ready, they change over. And then those false promises start coming through. The disappointment and frustration of being let down. But now you're under control. Now your mind is under control. Emotional effects. You're disconnecting completely from your own authentic spiritual growth. Your own purpose of moving forward in the spiritual world is now going to be kind of held back. And I see it as like child reins. Often when I'm doing clearings and people are being controlled, I see child reins. And it's like the energy has the reins on you. And if you want to turn right and they pull that way, you have no choice but to go off to the left. Very often people that have these false guides, they will end up in their own mental isolation. They will have anxiety, depression. And this is all down to misguided advice, to false advice coming through, because they're bringing out a certain frequency of vibration within you. The amplification of anxiety. Those people that are paranoid, people that hear mixed messages, see mixed visions, and then give those mixed messages out as their truth. They're telling their truth, but they hear it with a mixed audio input, and they see it with mixed visualizations as well. So if they can't see the reality of life and can't hear the reality of life, they can't speak their truth as we would know it in the reality of truth. They become stagnant on their own path. They become withdrawn. This has impacts on clearly themselves, but relationships. How do you hold a relationship if you're living your life in that way? How does your partner live in a relationship with you? Because you become detached from those that love you. You become detached from those that try and look out for you. We all have friends that watch our backs. We all do. but they won't watch your back forever. Not if you keep pushing them away. Sometimes this creates conflict by pushing them away. That negative influence on the recipient is now creating conflict to push people away that care for them. This is exactly what the false guide would want you to do, because they want the control. The negative influence, the disruption of harmony, all brings out that anxiety, all brings out that depression, all brings out that anger. All those lower feelings that we don't want to have as individuals, they now come to the fore. Now they're coming to the fore. Now your frequency is pretty much where the false guide wants it to be. And then the false guide is working. You've also got physical symptoms. Energies. People that have false guides very regularly are very fatigued. They are regularly unwell, and that's because their energetic fields are not in balance. That just makes sense, right? If their energetic fields are not in balance, if their chakras are all over the place, if their mental health is all over the place as well, they are naturally fatigued. People that are naturally fatigued become unwell. When your energy is fatigued and can't run smoothly, that energy then creates staleness, and staleness then manipulates, and staleness then manufactures into disharmony and dis-ease. Dis-ease obviously being illness. All these things can be manufactured by a false guide. The feelings of constantly being drained, the feelings of constantly being attacked, if you're susceptible to it, if you're sensitive to it, not being able to do much about it, because there is also this guide around you that can make you feel good. The flip of the coin, and they'll half kill you. The other side of the coin is they make you feel good. It's a bit like a Class A drug. It's a bit like a drug. They take you where they want you to go because they want you to take them there again. So identifying the false guides can be hard, can be difficult. Usually I think it's fair to say that those around you that are sensitive will see this more than you will. Of course, there are times and cases where you will know it yourself, but usually you think it's your mind working in ways that perhaps you just weren't used to before. But those around you will see that your personality has changed, see that you behave in completely different ways in which your personality did 2 years ago. So identifying them are quite tricky, really. Identification of false guides, if you are sitting in a circle or if you are bringing guides into your spiritual practice, there is a universal law of three, and that is that when you have a guide coming into your space, you always ask the guide 3 times if you are from the highest lights. Sometimes people say, are you from the highest lights, and are you for the highest good? Doesn't really matter what you say, it's the intention behind the words, but something along those lines. And what you're looking for, if you get that, obviously you open up with grounding and protection first, always. But then when the guides come in and you feel that guide, you would say, I acknowledge your presence. Confirm. Are you from the highest light? Yes or no? And you're looking for a yes. If you get a no, you dispel that energy in the ways that you've been taught. There are ways of doing it. And usually the best way to find out is to join a circle and develop and learn the basics and learn your foundations. But if you get a no, then you are to dispel that energy immediately out of your space. And then you ask your gatekeeper guide to come in and stand protection over you and up your protection. However, If you do get a yes on the first attempt, are you from the highest light? Yes. Ask the second time, are you from the highest light? And again, for the second time, you're looking for a yes. The third question, are you from the highest light? And you need that yes. There is a universal law of three that's understood, and that is whatever is said on the first two accounts, if it is a yes, if the energy is from a negative domain, it must always say no on the third attempt, on the third question. So that's the general rule and the easiest way of trying to qualify the positive or negative energy of your guide is: are you from the highest light? Yes or no? Yes. Are you from the highest light? Yes or no? Yes. Are you from the highest light? Yes or no? Yes. And once you get 3 yeses in a row without hesitation, and then you can be pretty confident that you are working with a guide from good, positive foundations, and they are there to help you learn. They are there to protect you and take you onto your life's path, however that may be. But you've got to cultivate your discernment. You've got to be self-aware. You've got to be aware of your own energy. There's a meditation I do a lot, which I'm sure you guys have seen or heard on the Facebook pages, and that's that I do a psychic protection chat every month, and I do a meditation of sitting in the power, and then we bring in the gatekeeper, and that evening of chat is all about protection, understanding energy, and looking after yourselves. Really, you need to learn grounding techniques. You need to learn spiritual protection. Some people do a complete ritual. I personally don't. My protection takes me split second. The protection I use, my guide White Hawk and Red Feather and the team, I ask that they protect me. I ask that they protect my wife Louise, our home, our children, and our loved ones. Because I do it every day, I literally do that in a split second. But the thing that counts the most is not what you say. The words are immaterial. The meaning behind the words is everything. And when I ask for protection, especially due to the work that I do, I need to know that my loved ones are safe and my home is safe. When I ask for protection, I bloody mean it. I really mean it. And that can never be misinterpreted. The words can never be misinterpreted, because the meaning within the words shouts from a very, very great height. So if you do have that little feeling of something's not quite right, get it checked out. If you know somebody who isn't acting in their normal way, you can get them checked out. You can go to a practitioner, one that knows what they're doing, and you can get that cleared, because the kind of end result with a false guide is usually extreme adrenaline. It's the false guides where we see the worst cases come through. It's the false guides that get the confirmation and the agreement to work from the recipient. They get the verbal contract to be in their place. That makes them harder to go. They then start changing the story, and the things that they were saying that were lovely and now not so lovely. And the experiences that they give the recipient are not as nice. Usually it's the false guides that bring in the hearing voices. They're the ones that are going to take you to extreme emotion. They're the ones that will take you to self-harm, harming yourself, harming people around you. They are the ones that will bring in the thought process of suicide, and they are the ones that will bring in the thought process of seriously harming others or worse. These are the ones that bring in astral negative rape, those sort of experiences. And it is because they are driving your anxiety and driving your energy to the extremes. And that is the energy they want to take. That is the energy they want to take from the recipient, because afterwards the recipient is exhausted and usually can't move, can't work, can't do anything for 1 or 2 days. And then that person usually starts self-medicating to get themselves through life. So it's a tricky path for sure. It's not an enjoyable path. It's not meant to be enjoyable. It could start enjoyable, but that is just their deceptive way in which they're gaining your confidence. And that is a little bit about the false guides. And I know that Andy's coming, and I know that I've been talking, and I'm just going to shut up. And I'm just going to let him come off mute.
That's fine. That was good. It was good to listen. I think it's one of the things, isn't it? Because we both do the same thing, but in different ways. It's good to kind of hear your version of things as you experience them. And obviously mine, and each, practitioner has a different way of doing things and a different idea. And, this is the kind of interesting part, I guess, of the kind of spiritual arenas, that we're all experiencing the same things in different ways. So what you just talked about and covered is really, I find it really interesting, which is why I went on to mute and shut up. So I want to listen to what you have to say, because, it's interesting for me. And I think it's one of the things probably that is a good point for everyone listening, really, is that everyone has something interesting to say, and everyone's experience is unique. And, what you and I say is our versions and our opinions. We've been doing this a long time, but there's lots of other people that have different opinions and do things in different ways. That's just as good or as valid as what we say. And I think when you were covering the false guides, what we see from an SRT perspective, I know you covered it as well slightly, is some of the practitioners do have, they are presented with that challenge quite early on, really, when we start to do SRT work, because we're working on behalf of clients and we're clearing people, and therefore, the negative aspect is going to come forward and try to present. And we have seen practitioners that, have guides presented to them that do trick them. There are tricks to guides, and it is a thing. And it is a thing every day, as you and I both know. Every day I do my protection, I connect to Jen, you connect to Whitehall. Every day we're testing our own guides, and it becomes your ritual that you do. And I wouldn't lie and say that in the past I haven't been caught, where I've thought I've caught connected to Chen, and it hasn't been Chen, it's been something mimicking Chen, and it has been an imposter. But it doesn't normally stay for very long, because very quickly you realise that something's off about the way they're talking to you, the vocabulary they use, the energy's off. So when you do this for a long time, it's like being married for 20 years, really. You know each other implicitly, and you know each other's kind of ways, and the way you speak to each other, the way you do things, your habits kind of become your personal habits. So, for a false guide has the same problem. It has to try and mimic everything that your guide does. And when you speak to your guides often, and you kind of are in that kind of marriage, really, a spiritual marriage, I guess, we know our guides intimately, and when a false one appears that something's not quite right. And I think for me, one of the things, talking to Chen, and I'm sure you'd probably say the same with Whitehawk, that, lots of people on this path want to channel, egotistically generally, something better than what they currently are. So, when I was connecting and talking to Chen, I was always happy with Chen. He was assumingly happy with me. And that's why that relationship's carried on. But there's lots of people that want to channel, archangels or deities or somebody else's guide. And I always sit there and wonder, why would you want to channel? I don't connect to Whitehawk and say, hi, it's Andy, let's have a chat. I fancy channeling you today. Because from my perspective, Whitehawk is your guide that you have that implicit relationship with. And why would I want to talk to him? Because he's nothing to do with me. It'd be different if he came to me and said, let's have a chat about Jonno, then I'd obviously be all ears. But
yeah, he's telling me that he'd never connect to you.
Yeah, that's right. But it is that thing, isn't it? That you have to build up a relationship with your guide if you want to work spiritually and be quite successful in the way that you work. And certainly in SRT, you have to have 150% confidence in what you're talking to, and to do that, you have to do it every day, and you have to put time into it, and you have to kind of have the integrity to keep that connection. And they do test us, don't they? I know Whitehawk tests you. Chen will present to me sometimes and pretend he's not Chen to see if I kind of double check him. And like you say, sometimes he'll present to me in a way that I know is him, but he pretends it's not, and then we disconnect and we go through it again. So there is this test that happens every so often, and the guides obviously want you to be thinking about imposters and other energies mimicking them, because it is a thing.
All too common, I'm afraid.
Yeah, and it's a shame that we both know of people that are very good mediums, very good practitioners that have been deceived by imposter guides, and they get on a certain path. And in the SRT world, it's kind of even worse, because if you connect to a negative guide or negative entity that's presenting as a guide, and you're working with clients, one is you're going to connect to and open those clients to that entity or that negative guide. And secondly, the clients actually get good feedback. Because if you can imagine, if we connect to some entity that pretends to be Chen or Whitehawk, and we connect to a client that we're going to work with, and that client has a couple of discarnate spirits and a low-level entity connected, the stronger, more powerful entity easily moves them away. So the next morning, that client wakes up and feels better. And of course, their assumption is, it was a positive thing, which it was. Of course, it was a positive event orchestrated by something negative, and that negative entity now has a connection to the client because, of course, it did the work effectively. And this is one of the big problems, is that, practitioners of SRT need to be very, very careful that when they're working with clients, they're not leaving behind a kind of trail of destruction to a certain degree. And we've seen it happen in the past, and it does happen, and it is a thing. So, this is part of the reason that we kind of work in teams and we're checking each other's backs. And if a practitioner isn't presenting right or doesn't feel right, then you get checked by somebody else. And I get you to check me, you get me to check you. It's like, we're pretty humble people. We don't kind of expect to be, on that perch all the time. And you always need someone behind you.
Yeah, and plus also, we're also aware that we are in radar. And, we are targeted. So it's something that, you and I, we take extremely seriously. And that phrase comes back, particularly in training, about being the weakest link. And, we talk about it and we say it. So the support structure that we have in the academy, particularly for the practitioners, is incredible. Absolutely incredible. We all look after each other. We all look after each other's backs. We've all got each other's backs. But if we have a weak link, that affects the whole team. That affects the whole academy. Not usually in the way that we're going to be drawn into that energy and work that energy, but Andy and I usually end up spending a lot of time distracted from the work that we should be doing, being drawn into situations that shouldn't be there in the first place. But it's a very, very, I think false guides is a very, very interesting subject. Really, really interesting, and one that probably could go on for a lot more time. And maybe we'll bring more in at another time. But it is the simplest thing is don't entertain it. Don't do anything that will risk that connection. If you don't know what you're doing, don't play with a Ouija board. If you don't know what you're doing, don't try and do spiritual work. And the danger, I find, and I'm going to see if Andy nods, is people with a little knowledge whose ego is bigger than their knowledge base. They're the most dangerous people that are out there.
Yeah, well, I think, like you just said, actually, you framed it really well. False guides and imposter guides are the conversation, because all people that start on their spiritual path are going to start talking telepathically to things they can't see. So you're right. You could talk about false guides and imposters. We could talk about it for hours and hours and hours, and all of the problems that are presented, all of the things that are presented. And I think it was good that you kind of gave the example earlier how you test a guide. You ask them 3 times if they're from the highest light, and that's how I test everything. Look, yesterday, Jane's dad came in, who's recently passed, and he came in for a chat and wanted to kind of get me to give Jane some info, which was quite interesting. The first thing I did was check, are you from the highest light 3 times? Because I need to know, am I talking to him or am I talking to something else? And if I'm talking to him, then he's got to qualify and pass that authentication test before we even continue any other conversation. Because if I don't get 3 yeses, that conversation's cut and he's cleared out of the space immediately without any other conversation. So you're right, mate. And that's why I was quite keen to listen to your version of things, because, it is a really interesting conversation. And it's imperative for anyone working spiritually to make sure they learn how to do that. Because we all get it wrong. I've got it wrong. You've got it wrong in the past. When you start on your spiritual path and you're learning to talk to things, everyone's going to get it wrong. But it's the getting it wrong that makes you learn. You need to get it right. Like falling off a bike.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you only learn how to ride a bike, it's because you've fallen off a couple of times.
Yeah, if you fall off and banged your knee, it hurts.
Yeah, so you know not to do that again. And it is one of those things that, the progression of spirituality is really good, really enjoyable. And look, this is the Spirit Release Academy. We kind of specialize in working with negative stuff. A lot of our experiences are working with negative stuff, but that is a small proportion of spiritual work, a very, very small proportion. This is kind of like a specialist subject, if you like. And I'm just going to quickly come to one of the questions that Ariana has said, and I think that our colleague Elaine was answering that, or Elaine's comment runs in line with Ariana's question. And Ariana's question was, why would a session report saying imposter guide removed if we've never connected with our guide before? Were they waiting for us to connect? I think more than likely you have connected with your guide before and your guides before, and you just consciously didn't know it. Subconsciously, you possibly have. Subconsciously, you have that positive interference from your normal spirit guides, ones that help you, ones that influence you on your path. And if there is a negativity of energy coming into your space, if you don't go out and practice it and learn how to deal with it, then the chances are it's there, but you never knew. So going into Elaine's comments, which was, one doesn't necessarily need to connect consciously to their guides. Absolutely. There are people that connect to their light guides and connect to the universe without any conscious effort at all. You've only got to look at how medication affects your energy systems and your frequency, alcohol, drugs, stress, anxiety, road rage. How many people are lovely and they sit behind a wheel and are an arsehole? Things change, energies change, people change. As soon as you start changing your personality, you open yourself up and you open your frequency up. It's a natural form of life. And energy always attracts energy. Thought is always followed by energy. Energy always follows thought. Once you get that energy that's following thought, that energy can then manipulate thought. And then you've got problems. Basically. Is my answer.
Yeah, I think that was good, Matt. I think that kind of does cover that conversation really from that perspective. It is all about your energy, your intuition, and intention is everything really. Like you say, because I used to kind of laugh when we used to go off to Spain on holiday. You know, you hire a car, you see these Spanish people that are kind of laid back and they're smoking and they're really chilled and they look quite cool. And then you give them a steering wheel and suddenly they become completely like lunatics. And you think, what happened? Like all these guys and you know, women in these bars and stuff that are all very chilled and mellow, stick them in a car and they're kind of right up behind you, they're beeping the horn, they're flashing the lights, and you think, like, where does that kind of road rage stuff come in from someone that was so mellow and chilled 10 minutes before? And Jane and I always used to laugh, you know, that you kind of, you go to somewhere like Spain and you kind of see this, and Italy was very similar actually. When we were in Italy, you see the way they drive and you think, what happens to people when they get behind a wheel? Because they suddenly become very different people. You know, that kind of mellow, chill thing's disappeared altogether.
Yeah, you can see it anywhere, can't you? And it's just normal people going about their normal lives with different energies that are around them. And as soon as there's an opportunity to come in and take over and drive that adrenaline, the opportunity isn't going to be when they're sitting in a roadside cafe having an espresso. The opportunity comes in when they're driving. Very often, it's ego that opens doors and opens cracks as well. So if you keep your ego in check, it's a major factor in looking after your own energy systems, I believe.
Yeah, I'd agree with that as well. I think it's just trying to be authentically who you are and just doing the best that you can do in your day-to-day. You know, you make the right decisions with the right intentions and just trying to be, you know, kind of natively yourself, really, without having to try and be anything else. I think it's one of the problems, isn't it, for the younger generation? So much crap on social media, and there's kind of this whole hero thing that goes on in Hollywood and films, and no one's really happy just being kind of just little old me. Everybody wants to be something special, or wants to be better, or look better, or perceived to be better, or have a better life, more money, better car, all this sort of stuff. And it's like those sorts of thoughts. If you're driving those sorts of thoughts continually, and you look in the mirror and you don't like what you see, and you're trying to change your appearance and things, you're going to kind of be attracting that negative influence that's going to kind of push that agenda for you, and it starts to change your thought process and your personality. So you're right. I think the ego thing is the conversation as well, really.
Exactly how it is. Exactly how it is. So that's our, I guess that's our chat on the false guides. There's lots of different subjects, lots of different titles that we cover in our training, and I guess it always makes it easy to do and pleasurable to do, because the more Andy and I work together, the more students that come through the academy, the more examples we have to work with. And when Andy and I give examples, they're all true. Basically, because you couldn't make this shit up.
Well, that's what they say, isn't it? It's the reality is,
far greater than the truth. Far
yeah,
greater than making it up. Yeah.
Fiction. Yeah, I know. It's funny. In fact, last night, Jen and I were watching a Netflix film called Deliverance. I don't know if you've seen that. It's based on a true story, basically, about a family in America that live in Pittsburgh, I think, and the house is haunted and there's an evil negative influence there, and it shows you how it affects the whole family, and it's possessing the children, and the children trying to do things to parents. And it's a horror film, so it's kind of like Hollywood-y, but it was quite interesting because the general concepts are exactly what we do every day, just that generally people aren't crawling across the ceiling and crawling up the walls, and obviously we're sending guide teams in to clear and remove these types of entities. But when you watch these films and things, you think Hollywood kind of does get it, and people do know how these things work and what's going on behind the scenes, and it's kind of obviously dramatized in that way, but effectively it's kind of what we do every single day.
And Hollywood gets it completely.
Yeah. So I guess that's probably quite a good opening conversation to the 3-day workshop, isn't it, that we've got coming up?
Yeah. Yeah. So if anyone is interested, you can just see on my little tagline there.
I was reading on your tagline.
We have a 3-day workshop. It's specifically aimed at people that want to become practitioners with us. So 3-day workshop. It's going to last about an hour per day on the 10th, 11th, and 12th of this month. It's with myself and Andy. We are bringing others in. We are going into ways in which we work with the academy. We are going. I mean, we just had a really good chat about force guides. That was just that's just over an hour. We have so much to discuss when we have our sort of 5-day in-person course and the online course that we started yesterday, actually. So all of these things are important to us. If you do see yourself as a practitioner in the near future, register, come and see us. I don't know if you got the registration, Andy, if you or could grab the registration.
Yeah, I can grab that link, mate.
We do have a number of people that are coming in. It's a live conversation and it is not recorded. It is there for us to talk to you and for you to talk to us. We want that interaction. We don't want people that just think, oh, I won't bother turning up, I'll watch it another time. We want you to come and talk to us. Sarah, she's already confirming that she's registered. Kavitha, not sure how to pronounce it, and my apologies if I've got that wrong. But yeah, this is what it is. We're going to come in, we're going to have a chat with Sarah and Kavitha and lots of other people. So come in. If you see yourself doing our work, in fact, if you do what we say is hear the call. If you hear the call for this sort of work, come and join us on the 3-day workshop. And is about to put the link up as well. Come and have a chat with us. Come and interact with us. Come and communicate with us and just see where this goes. And lots of people are now already saying that they're coming in to register for this and have registered. Michelle, 1 o'clock in the morning. I feel it. Doesn't matter how much I'd want to do something. I'm not sure I'd be up at 1 o'clock in the morning to do this. When I was younger, I'd be going out at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah, that was the good old days, mate, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'd be coming back in at like 9 o'clock in the morning.
When I had shoulder length permed hair.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
Dancing around in fields in flares. But yeah.
That wasn't so long ago, mate, either.
Sorry?
That wasn't so long ago.
No, it's a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, it's Michelle, I'm going to guess your Southern Hemisphere somewhere. And maybe in the future, who knows? And if we do come down to Southern Hemisphere, then we'll certainly be up at different times talking to people to ensure that they fully understand what it is that we're coming down to. So I hope that really helps. I hope that was an interesting chat. And if there is anything that you want us to specifically discuss, just pop some messages on our Facebook page. Just let us know and we'll bring those conversations in as well. So yeah, Western Australia. Perth? Or is that north? Not can't remember. I don't know. I'm not going to embarrass myself anymore.
It's a big place, mate, isn't it? All depends on your geography.
Yeah.
Geographical knowledge.
On which way you look at the planet.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And depends if it's a flat earth or not as well, because we could have that conversation.
No, we couldn't.
Well, we could.
Well, we could.
Yeah, exactly. I say you were right. Look, so your geography was quite good. Your geography teacher would be impressed, mate.
Yeah, hopefully. So I hope that helps. I hope that was a good chat. And like I said, if there is anything you want us to discuss, just pop them in the comments. We do come back in and have a little watch. And we wish you very well. And I hope you have a great week. We are back on Tuesday for a chat. Usually slightly earlier in the afternoon for us. And then we're back in bringing in different practitioners on a weekly basis from Thursday as well. And also we will be bringing in people that have had the clearings as well. Some lovely people have come in and messaged us saying about their experiences by having clearings. So if you have had that experience, please let us know. You can contact us at contact@spiritreleaseacademy.com.
Perfect.
There you go. I went blank for a second.
I know, because we've got like 20 email addresses.
I know.
That's why.
20 email addresses and 50 WhatsApp groups.
Yeah, I know. It's like overload these days.
Absolutely. But if you have had that positive experience, come in and let us know. Come in and talk about it, because it might be one, we just find it interesting. It's always good to get feedback. But if you are up for it, you can come and join Andy and I on a Thursday. Come and have a little chat. And we would love some of you to come in and just have a little chat with us. So thank you very much. Hope you have a great week. Stay well. Look after each other. And we'll see you soon.
Thanks, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.